So you started playing Gods Unchained, you want to buy and sell some cards. The Forge is here, a lot of people looking to do this, but how do you know if you're buying or selling too high or too low? What are some of the major pitfalls that you could fall into? Don't worry, I'm going to let you know. What's up, guys? I'm CopperPitch and I make blockchain gaming content. I was recently nominated for Best Creator of the Year on playtoearn.net. If you guys want to go take one sexy moment, just go down in the description, click that link, and vote for me. I would appreciate it greatly. All right, let's dive into this content. So you're browsing on tokentrove.com and you're looking at Gods Unchained cards. But how do you know if you're making a horrible mistake buying a card? You need to know what set a card is from. This is important because some sets are locked and some are unlocked. What does this mean? Well, Genesis and Trial of the Gods are locked sets. That means they cannot be balanced anymore. They cannot be changed. The card that you buy is the card that you will have 100 years from now. It's locked forever. It cannot change. This is important because some sets, like Core and Welcome Set, are unlocked forever, meaning they can change. So for instance, if you were to look at a core card and think, Hunting Trap is a phenomenal card because it is a phenomenal card. Well, it is possible that one day this card could get nerfed. And if it does, and you thought to yourself, hey, I should buy all 942 copies, well, if it then gets nerfed, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So you shouldn't do that. But if you look at Genesis and Trial of the Gods, these cards cannot be changed. So something like Size of the Harvest, which is a great card, this can't be changed. It can't be nerfed. Also, on the flip side, really bad cards cannot be buffed. And so therefore, buying a locked bad card is never going to be a good card. So that is why set is very important. So Genesis, Trial of the Gods are locked. Core, Welcome Set are unlocked forever, and the current expansion, Divine Order, is currently in balancing, meaning it is unlocked, but it will be locked once the balancing phase is done in a couple of months. Number 2, we've got Rarity. So you have common, rare, epic, and legendary cards. Why is this important? Well, it's not necessarily that common cards are bad and legendary cards are good, but it actually has more to do with the supply. So things to the left of this chart here have higher supply, and once we get up to legendary cards, there's lower supply. So if we look at the Genesis set common cards, you can see that each card on Token Trove, you have a number in the upper right. You can see there are 28,000 or 27,000. Most of them have almost exactly the same amount, around 27,000. That means there's been 27,000 or 28,000 of these minted, and there will never be more. The set is no longer being printed, therefore these numbers are finite. Also, the number on the left here means there's 100 cards listed. So when it comes to common cards, there's 28,000 in Genesis. When it comes to rare cards, there's about 9,800 or so in Genesis. Epic, there's about 3,500, and legendary, there's about 1,800, 1,900 or so. So that means there's less supply, therefore the cards are going to be worth more. Next we have quality, meteorite, shadow, gold, and diamond. Why do these matter? Well, eventually, they said in the state of the beta that at a high level, we're looking at rewarding all players with Gods daily, once the Blessing of the Gods event is done, with additional points earned based on the cards you're playing with. Decks with complete meteorite cards will earn more points, and higher shine cards even more. So that means if you have a deck with a bunch of shadow cards, or gold cards, or even diamond cards, you're going to earn more per game than if you played with plain locked cards or even meteorite cards. The lowest shine of all sets aside from Core and Welcome Set is Meteorite. The Core set comes with an even lower tier, which is plain, and they are locked. They're not NFTs. You need to forge those in order to make a Meteorite card and earn more money by playing games. Once again, you can see the number dwindles here as we go from Meteorite. There was about 1,700. In Shadow, this card only had 133. In Gold, only 28. And in Diamond, only 5 copies exist. When the Forge eventually allows us to forge higher and higher tiers, it will cost you 5 Meteorite copies to forge 1 Shadow, 5 Shadows to forge 1 Gold, 5 Golds to forge 1 Diamond. So as you can tell, Diamonds are going to be extremely rare, but that means you'll earn more gods in the future. Next we've got, is the card in the meta? If the card's not in the meta, it's going to be worth less than if the card is in the meta. So cards like Hephaestus is not a very good card. Nobody plays this card. You're not going to find him on any top 10 lists. He's not a great card. But if you're watching my YouTube and you see me playing some cards, they're probably in the meta. And if you go to the top 10 list on gudex.com and you look at those decks, see what the top people are playing, well, those cards are probably in the meta. But cards that you never see, like Jungle Shepherd, well, they're not in the meta, and they never will be, because this card is trash. I can't even believe 6 people bought it on December 1st. What is happening? Why? No one will ever pay $7,000 for a Jungle Shepherd. Someone paid $64, and they probably overpaid. Lastly, we've got future meta. Could this card be better in the future if it's given more support? Well, we know that the core set refresh is coming. They're going to be adding 60 new cards. They're also modifying a ton of existing core cards and welcome set cards. So certain tribes, as you can see, this one here is an Amazon, in the future are going to be getting a lot more support, and therefore cards that might have been weak in the past might become very strong in the future. For example, there could also be a card that says after this creature takes damage, draw a card and obliterate a random card in your hand. Well, this card is trash. There's no upside to obliterating cards in your hand, but in the future, if a card was printed that says every time you obliterate a card in your hand, win the game, well then suddenly Unruly Shredder becomes phenomenal. Those were the intangible things. Then we have the tangible things about cards that make them worth more or less and make them be in the meta or not in the meta. Those include things like the number of stats that a card has and the text. So let's just use a Skeleton Heavy for example. This is changing in the core set refresh eventually, so this might look different to you in the future if you're watching next year. But right now the Skeleton Heavy is a 2 mana 2/4. That means for 2 mana, the maximum stats that you can really have typically on a 2 mana card is 6 total stats. This one has 2 strength, 4 health. So what does that mean to evaluate other cards? Well, like I said, this has no text, which means if it has more stats than 2/4, it's probably going to have a downside. Otherwise, it would just be busted. If it has some text that has a lot of upside, then it's going to probably have a lot less stats than 2/4. So if we look then at something like the Warmonger Smith, this is also a 2 mana 2/4, but it also has a roar that does something in addition. So this gives your relic +2 strength for its next attack, but it's also a 2 mana 2/4. Why did they print this? Well, this one you can see is specifically only for war. So cards that are specific to a domain can be a little bit stronger than cards that are just neutral. So there you have it. None of this was financial advice. These cards could go way up, way down. I have no idea. They are tied to the price of ETH, and therefore if ETH goes way up or down, your cards could change in price. But these were some of the major pitfalls that you can avoid. You don't want to buy a Diamond Legendary card of an unlocked set because you never know if it gets nerfed. It could then become the worst card and then get locked in and you spent a boatload of money. So be careful with locked versus unlocked, and also just keep an eye out for good cards that are underpriced. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.